You ever give everything to people, only to have them kick you when you're finally on your way back home? That's what happened to me. After serving my country for over a decade, missing birthdays, Christmases, funerals, I was finally heading home for the holidays. I thought it'd be warm hugs and maybe a few happy tears. Instead, I got a cold text from my dad that said, "You're not welcome here anymore." And all I said back was, "Thanks." If you want to hear how I turned that text into the sweetest revenge of all time, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more true revenge stories. This one will make you rethink how you treat people, especially the quiet ones. My name is Amanda. I'm 31 years old, a decorated military officer, and I'd spent the last 13 years in active duty. My life was the definition of sacrifice. I lost friends in combat. I almost lost my life twice, but I never lost my love for my family until that message. Let me take you back to how it all began. I grew up in Dustin Glen, a small estate on the edge of rural Ohio. We didn't have much growing up, but we had each other. Or at least that's what I used to think. My dad, Gerald, worked at a tire manufacturing plant, and my mom, Julia, cleaned houses. I was the oldest of three, with my brother Nathan and my younger sister Bianca always trailing behind me. From an early age, I learned to be responsible. When other kids were riding bikes and sneaking candy, I was folding laundry and babysitting. It wasn't because I wanted to. It was because my parents expected me to. I didn't complain, though. I thought that's what being a family meant. High school came and went. I didn't get to go to prom. Didn't walk across the graduation stage either. My mom said we couldn't afford the dress or the photos. But when Bianca graduated 2 years later, they threw her a backyard party with lights, banners, and even a chocolate fountain. I swallowed my pain and kept moving. That's what I was good at. At 18, I enlisted in the military. My dad barely looked up from the TV when I told him. My mom said, "That's good. At least we don't have to pay for college." No hugs, no tears, just a pat on the back like I was heading off to mow the lawn. But that didn't break me. My first deployment was rough. I was stationed in Afghanistan, and the heat was unbearable. I wrote letters to my family every week, even though most went unanswered. On my 21st birthday, I called home. Nathan answered. He said they were having a barbecue, and that dad didn't want to come to the phone. I could hear music and laughter in the background. Still, I stayed hopeful. I kept sending postcards and gifts. I sent my sister money for her college textbooks. I sent my brother a new phone when his broke. I sent my parents $300 one winter to help with heating, even though my boots had holes in them. Fast forward a decade later. I'd moved up the ranks, collected a few medals, and built a name for myself. I even helped coordinate a humanitarian mission in Haiti that earned national recognition. But none of that seemed to matter to my family. And yet, all I wanted was to go home for Christmas. I hadn't been home for the holidays in almost 11 years. Every year, I either got deployed or volunteered for missions no one wanted, so others could be home with their families. But this time was different. I had leave approved. I booked my flight. I sent them my arrival info, excited like a kid. I imagined my mom meeting me at the door, crying, hugging me. I pictured my dad slapping my back, saying he was proud. I even bought gifts for everyone. A gold bracelet for my mom. A custom leather jacket for my dad. Tech gadgets for my siblings. I spent over $1,200 just on gifts alone. Then it came. 3 days before my flight. I was sitting in the barracks packing up my last duffel bag when my phone buzzed. It was my dad. The message read, "After talking it over, we think it's best if you don't come this Christmas. Too much has changed. You're not welcome here anymore." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hands went numb. My chest tightened. I didn't even ask why. I didn't beg. I didn't cry. I just replied, "Thanks." Then I turned my phone off and sat there in silence. I didn't eat that night. I didn't sleep. I just laid on my bunk staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I did wrong. Was it because I sent less money this year? Because I couldn't attend Bianca's engagement party in person? Because I'd missed so many things over the years while serving? But slowly, something shifted inside me. I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry. And that anger, it sparked something. Not the kind that lashes out, but the kind that plans. The kind that waits patiently. The kind that sets things in motion that can't be undone. See, what my family didn't know was that while they had been ignoring me, I had been working my way through advanced cybersecurity training. I had contacts in high places. I knew how to find things, hide things, move things, and most importantly, I knew how to wait. I canceled the flight, rerouted the packages, and started making a plan. But before I could get too far, I got another message. This one from Bianca. She said, "Hey, don't take Dad's message personally. He's just stressed. You know how he is." Then she added, "But yeah, maybe don't come this year. It's just too awkward with everyone." Too awkward? That's when I realized they had talked about this together. This wasn't just my dad. This was all of them. My entire family had voted me out. Like I was a problem to solve. Like I was an inconvenience. I stared at her message until it blurred. And then, without replying, I opened my laptop. I clicked into my old documents folder and pulled up a list. An Excel sheet I hadn't looked at in years. It was a spreadsheet I'd made during my second tour, filled with financial support I'd given them over the years. Every single transaction, every gift, every dollar I'd sent. And the total? Over $21,000. That's when it hit me. Maybe I couldn't get back the hugs or the holidays I missed, but I could get back something. Not just the money. Respect, power, peace. And it would start that very night. I didn't have to break any laws. I didn't even need to raise my voice. All I needed to do was flip the script. Because what they didn't realize was that the one they called too serious or too distant was the one who'd been holding their lives together from 1,000 miles away. And I was about to let go. The first thing I did was pull up the documents for the car my name was on, my dad's truck. Paid in full by me. Registered under my military address. And the second thing, I started drafting a letter. Not to my family, but to someone else, someone who would change the game for good. The only thing I needed was the right timing. And Christmas would be perfect. Because sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it doesn't come wrapped in rage. Sometimes it looks like a quiet smile and a thank you text. Just then my door buzzed. It was my commanding officer. He said, "Lieutenant Taylor, there's a call for you. It's urgent." I walked into the hallway, thinking maybe it was logistics. But when I picked up the line, a voice said something that made my blood run cold. "Lieutenant Amanda Taylor, we need to talk. It's about your family." My hand tightened around the receiver. "What happened?" I asked. The voice on the other end paused before saying, "There's been an incident back home, and you may be the only person who can fix it." I didn't say a word. I just closed my eyes and smiled. I held the phone tighter as the voice on the other end gave me details in a calm, clipped tone. It was Sheriff Rudd from Jefferson County, the same man who used to let me ride along in his cruiser when I was 16, trying to decide if I wanted to be a cop before I chose the military. His voice still carried that slow drawl, but this time it was laced with something I hadn't heard before worry. "There was a break-in at your dad's property," he said. "Garage door was kicked in. Couple tools missing. Small things mostly. But that ain't why I'm calling." "Then why are you calling me?" I asked, trying to sound neutral. "It's about the truck," he said. "Your dad reported it stolen." I didn't say anything. I just stared straight ahead, heart pounding. "I ran the plates," Rudd continued. "It's still registered to a base in South Carolina under your name. So I figured I'd call you first before making this messy." My eyes scanned the corner of my laptop screen, still displaying the spreadsheet with every cent I'd paid for that truck. It was a silver F-150 new model with chrome trim and off-road tires. I bought it for him outright after his old truck gave out. told him it was a thank you for raising me. He never said thank you back. I exhaled. The truck is mine, Sheriff. I figured, he said. Thought maybe your family forgot that part. No, I said with a cold smile. They didn't forget. They just didn't care. There was a pause. I can drop the case quietly, he said. You want me to tow it and hold it at impound. I thought about it. Thought about how that truck was the same one my dad used to drive past the neighbors bragging about, how his girl in uniform got him the best ride on the block. No, I said. Let it sit. I have a better idea. The sheriff chuckled low. That's the Amanda I remember. We hung up, and I sat back down on my bunk. I wasn't going to take the truck away, not yet. Not while it was still useful. I had something bigger in mind. See, the thing about my family is they always measured love in dollars. And since they didn't think I had value anymore, I figured I'd show them just how valuable I really was. By slowly removing every piece of support I'd ever given them, quietly, legally, and completely. The next morning, I woke up early and went for a 5-mile run around the base. The air was freezing and my breath came out in clouds. I ran until my legs burned and my brain cleared. Then I showered, put on my uniform, and walked straight into the legal office. I had documents to update. First stop, removing my parents from my military emergency contact list. Second, canceling the joint credit account I opened for Nathan, the one he used to fund his electronics addiction. He'd already maxed it out once, and I'd paid it down without asking for a cent. Third, adjusting my will. It wasn't much, but the small house I was building just outside Charlotte was in my name, and I'd intended to leave it to Bianca. Not anymore. From now on, it would go to a local veterans shelter. Each step felt like cutting a rope that had been choking me. Still, a part of me ached. This was my family, my blood. But blood doesn't make people good. Loyalty does. Kindness does. And they had neither. That night, I cooked myself dinner, mac and cheese with chopped sausage, and opened my laptop to check flights again. Not to go home. No, I was planning something else. I booked a last-minute ticket to Cleveland, not to visit Dustin Glen. I had a stop to make first. The next morning, I flew out, boots laced, duffel packed. I arrived at the airport and grabbed a rental car, driving past familiar towns that used to make me feel warm inside. But this time, all I saw were reminders of how far I'd come and how little they'd grown. I stopped at a small cafe and met with someone important, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Mrs. Elkins. She used to be our neighbor. Sweet old woman with snowy white hair and a porch full of bird feeders. She was the one who gave me cookies when I got my acceptance letter to the Army. The one who held me when I cried after prom night because no one had asked me out. She looked older now, but her smile was the same. "Amanda," she said, pulling me into a hug. "You look different. Stronger." "I feel different," I said. We sat and talked for over an hour. She told me things I hadn't known. How my dad bragged around town that I was off somewhere playing soldier, while Bianca was the real star of the family. How my parents threw a massive engagement party for Bianca and told everyone they had invited me because Amanda always ruins the mood with her serious talk. That hit hard, but I didn't flinch. After coffee, I thanked Mrs. Elkins and promised to visit again. Then I drove straight to Dustin Glen, parking just out of sight from the house I once called home. It looked the same, gray siding, cracked driveway, lawn full of leaves. The porch light was on, and I could see movement inside. Laughter floated out the windows. They were having dinner, probably thinking I was off, sulking on a base somewhere. I didn't approach the door. I didn't knock. Instead, I took out my phone and opened a secure app. I accessed the GPS tracker, still hidden in the F-150's dash. The truck was in the driveway, as expected. I pinged it once, just to remind them it wasn't really theirs. Then I backed out, turned down the street, and drove to a hotel in the next town over. I wasn't here to cause a scene. Not yet. The next few days were quiet. I used the time to visit old spots, my high school football field, the library where I used to read about places I'd later visit in real life. I saw teachers who barely recognized me and neighbors who stared like I was a ghost. I didn't mind. Ghosts are powerful. They haunt. On Christmas Eve, I sat in my hotel room watching the snow fall outside. The town was quiet, wrapped in white and blinking lights. Families were inside exchanging gifts, sipping cider, pretending everything was perfect. And somewhere in that gray house on Cedar Elm Drive, my family was doing the same without me. I opened my laptop and launched the first phase of my plan. It started with the utilities. The gas account for the family home, still under my name. I gave them a week's notice of cancellation. The cell phone Plan Bianca was using, mine. I removed her line. The small storage unit they used to keep old furniture, rented under my military discount, gone. Then I moved to my favorite part, the scholarship I set up in our town's local college under my sister's name. I pulled the application, deactivated the account, and reassigned the funds to a new recipient, a young girl from a single-parent home with straight A's and a love for engineering. I didn't feel bad. I felt free. And just when I thought I might be able to rest, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. Unknown number. I answered, and the voice on the other end made my pulse jump. It was Nathan. "You're a real piece of work, you know that," he said, his voice shaking. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said, leaning back against the headboard. "Bianca can't call anyone. Dad's truck GPS keeps beeping. Mom said the heat might shut off next week. What are you doing?" I paused, then replied simply, "Fixing things." "You think this is revenge," he shouted. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I said calmly. "It makes me equal." "You're out of the family," he yelled. "You hear me? You're nothing to us." And with that, he hung up. I let the silence settle around me. Then I picked up my phone and made one final call, this time to an old friend, Amelia. I had a story to tell, one that involved years of service, family betrayal, and what happens when you push the quiet one too far. And I knew just the way to tell it, because nothing screams revenge like the truth when told to the whole world. And just then there was a knock at the hotel door. I wasn't expecting anyone. I stood slowly, heart beating fast, and opened the door. On the other side was my mother, standing in the cold, red-eyed, holding something behind her back. "Amanda," she whispered, but I didn't say a word. I just stared at her and saw what looked like regret. The hallway was silent. The only sound was the faint hum of the vending machine behind me. My mother stood there on the threshold, bundled in a thick blue coat that looked a size too big. Her hands were trembling, not from the cold, but from something deeper. Guilt, maybe. Fear, perhaps. Behind her back, she clutched a small, wrapped box. The paper was wrinkled. The ribbon was crooked, but it was there. "Amanda," she repeated, softer this time. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside without a word. She entered slowly, like someone crossing a line they'd sworn never to touch. Her eyes scanned the room. The military bag in the corner, the neatly folded uniform, the laptop still open on the desk. She looked at me the way strangers do when they realize they might have met someone important before. She held out the box with both hands. "I know this doesn't fix anything." I didn't take it. I just stared. Her hands lowered, and she placed the gift carefully on the dresser. Then she sat on the edge of the bed and began to cry. Not the dramatic kind of crying I remembered from my childhood, the kind she used to do when she didn't get her way. This was quiet, choking, real. "I didn't agree with your father," she said, wiping her face with a balled-up napkin. "I wanted you to come. I even set a plate at the table." "Then why didn't you say anything?" I asked, my voice flat. Because it's easier to go along than to fight. You know how he is." Yes, I did. That was the problem. She reached for the box again and pushed it closer. "It's just a sweater. I knitted it. I started it a few weeks after I heard you'd made major. Took me a while to finish. My throat tightened, but I didn't touch the box. Bianca and Nathan didn't know I was coming here, she added quickly. Neither did your father. They think I went to visit my sister in Dayton. If he finds out I came here. Hell what? I said, cutting in. Kick you out? Tell you you're not welcome. She didn't answer. Instead, she whispered, You were always stronger than all of us. I turned away and looked out the window. Snow was falling again, soft and slow, blanketing the world like a lie. It made everything look peaceful, even though inside, everything was coming undone. What do you want from me? I asked, still watching the snow. I want to make things right, she said. Just with me and you. I can't speak for the rest of them, but I can speak for myself. And I know what we did was wrong. You didn't stop it, I said. No, she whispered. I didn't, and I'm sorry. The silence between us stretched long and awkward. She stood up, straightened her coat, and looked back at me one more time. I'll go now, she said. I just wanted to say it to your face. She walked to the door, paused, and then added, You're not nothing, Amanda. You never were. And then she left. The door clicked shut, and I stood in the center of that quiet room, feeling heavier than I had all week. I stared at the gift she left behind. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I sat down at the desk and opened my laptop. Phase 2 was about to begin. If they thought losing a truck and a phone plan was bad, they were about to learn what real consequences felt like. I pulled up Nathan's record. He'd used my military ID to get a home loan rate 2 years ago, something I quietly approved at the time through a buddy at a local bank. I had helped push it through, no questions asked. Time to ask questions. I sent a formal letter to the loan manager, including a notarized withdrawal of support and a request to reevaluate the account based on fraudulent use of military credentials. That letter would trigger a chain reaction that would freeze the mortgage pending further review. I moved on to Bianca's wedding venue next. I'd put a deposit on it months ago when I thought we were still on speaking terms, for $100 down on a rustic barn outside Columbus. I emailed the venue manager with proof of payment and withdrawal of funding, citing family estrangement. Cancellation fee? Sure. Worth it? Absolutely. By midnight, I'd closed 5 accounts, rerouted another $800 from shared streaming and software plans back to my personal account, and removed myself as co-signer from an old lease Nathan was subletting for a friend. It wasn't about being petty. It was about balance. But just as I was about to shut down the laptop, an email popped into my inbox. Subject: Urgent. Commander Ellis interview request. I blinked. Commander Ellis was my former CO, a man who rarely spoke to media unless it involved combat updates or base achievements. Attached was a message from a journalist in D.C., the same one I'd reached out to a few days ago. The message read, We'd love to tell your story, Amanda. Not just the military part. The part about what happens when people who give everything get treated like nothing. The public needs to hear it. America needs to hear it. There was an NDA attached and a draft script. I clicked it open and read the headline. Forgotten by Family. A soldier's story of betrayal, service, and a Christmas text heard round the world. I stared at the screen. Was I ready for this? Was I ready to let the world see the cracks in the perfect soldier mask? I didn't know yet, but I saved the draft and closed the laptop. I needed rest. The next morning was Christmas Day. I woke to the sound of the fire alarm. At first, I thought it was the hotel. Then I smelled it, smoke. Not thick, not burning, but faint, and coming from outside. I rushed to the window and pulled open the curtains. That's when I saw it. Parked in front of the hotel was the F-150, flames flickering beneath it, smoke billowing up from the front tires. Someone had lit my truck on fire, or at least what they thought was theirs. And standing across the parking lot, half hidden behind a dumpster, was my brother Nathan, hands in his coat pockets, eyes locked on mine. He didn't move. He didn't run. He just stood there, watching it burn. And I knew. This was war now. I bolted down the stairs 2 at a time, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. By the time I reached the parking lot, the fire had started to spread under the hood. Flames licked the chrome grille, spitting black smoke into the cold air. The acrid smell of burning plastic and rubber wrapped around me like a slap to the face. I spotted Nathan immediately, still standing there, still watching. But when he saw me coming toward him, his stance shifted. Not guilty, not scared, proud. He smirked. "You shouldn't have messed with us," he said, nodding toward the truck. "That's what you get." I didn't answer. I just stared at him, taking in the loose grip of his fists, the twitch in his jaw. This wasn't heat-of-the-moment anger. This was something planned, calculated. He had waited until Christmas morning to make a statement. Behind me, hotel guests started pouring out into the lot. Someone shouted, "Call 911!" as another ran to grab the fire extinguisher from the lobby. I turned back to the truck, flames dancing in the reflection of my eyes, and I felt nothing. Not rage, not pain, just confirmation. This was who they were. All of them, even Nathan, the very person I had once shielded from bullies in middle school, who I helped get out of debt 3 times, who cried on the phone to me when he failed his first college semester. He just tried to destroy the one thing he knew was mine, and he didn't even try to hide it. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. I walked up to him slowly. He flinched just slightly when I stopped within inches of his face. "You picked the wrong day," I said quietly, "to remind me why I left." His smirk faltered. Then I turned and walked away. By the time the fire department arrived, the truck was mostly gone. Only the back tires and bed remained untouched. One firefighter gave me a pitiful look while the other began asking guests for security footage. Nathan had disappeared, but I knew exactly where he'd gone, back to that house, back to their dinner table, back to their version of the truth. But I had something better than fire. I had receipts. I spent the rest of the morning giving statements to the fire crew and hotel staff. A detective showed up asking if I had enemies or anyone with motive. I handed over Nathan's name. I even showed them the threatening voicemail he left last week that I hadn't deleted. That part of the battle, I was happy to let the police handle. But my war? That was personal. By 3 p.m., I was checked out of the hotel and driving toward Columbus, tired but laser-focused. I didn't need revenge that screamed. I needed one that would echo. I parked at a local FedEx hub and mailed off 3 envelopes. One went to the scholarship board of Bianca's University, complete with full documentation of misused military funds. The second to the IRS, outlining discrepancies in my father's tax filings, something I had access to from the time I helped them file back when they couldn't figure it out. And the third went to a friend in the local press, someone who had agreed to run the story the moment I said go. Each envelope wasn't a bomb. It was a fuse, and I had just lit them all. Later that night, I checked into another hotel, farther away, somewhere no one would look. I ordered dinner, turned off my phone, and allowed myself a rare moment of calm. I unwrapped the gift my mom had left. Inside was a hand-knitted sweater, slightly lopsided but warm and soft. There was a note tucked inside the collar. It said, "I never knew how to protect you from your father, but I watched you protect everyone else. Maybe this time, you'll let someone protect you." I didn't cry, but I did place the sweater on the bed gently and folded the note. Then I stared at the ceiling for hours, mind running through every detail of what was to come, because I knew what came next. The fallout. By the time the sun came up, everything had shifted. My sister called first. I let it go to voicemail, then my mom, then Nathan twice. Each message more frantic than the last. I finally answered the 4th time when my father's name showed up on the screen. I put it on speaker and said nothing. He was yelling, "What the hell did you do, Amanda?" The IRS came by asking questions about my returns. Nathan said the bank is freezing his account. Still, I didn't say a word. He kept going. You always think you're better than us, don't you? You're not. You're just bitter. That's why you're alone this Christmas. That's why no one wants you around. That one stung. A little. But I had prepared for this. I had lived through worse. Are you done? I asked calmly. No, I'm not done. You think you can come back and tear our lives apart just because you've got some stripes on your shoulder. I paused, let the silence crawl in, and then said, no, I think I can tear them apart because I built them. Then I hung up. My hand shook slightly, not from fear, but from the release of all the years I had swallowed down. That afternoon, I received an email from the journalist. The story was live. I gave them everything. A soldier's Christmas betrayal and the family that left her behind. Within hours, it was trending. My inbox flooded. Messages from strangers, from soldiers, from parents of deployed sons and daughters. And among them, a message from my childhood best friend, Leah. We hadn't spoken in 10 years. Her message said, I saw the article. I never knew. If you need a place to stay, or just someone to talk to, my door is open. Always. It hit me then like a slow wave. I hadn't just burned bridges. I had cleared the path. I had made space for people who deserved to be there. That night, I sat outside under a sky full of stars, sweater pulled over my hands, and for the first time in years, I felt warm. But the peace didn't last long. The next day, I received a voicemail, this time from someone I didn't expect. Bianca's fiancé. His voice was calm, almost too calm. Hey, Amanda, I think we need to talk. There's something you don't know about your sister, and about what she's planning next. My jaw tightened. He ended with 7 chilling words. She wants to ruin you, completely and publicly. I stared at the phone, then stood up. The war had only just begun. I replayed the voicemail 3 times. Each time, the words hit harder than before. She wants to ruin you, completely and publicly. Bianca, my baby sister, the one I helped raise while her mom was out working double shifts. The same girl whose college textbooks I paid for, whose first car I co-signed, and who called me her hero the day I left for boot camp. Now, she was plotting to destroy me. I stared at the screen, considering whether or not to call her fiancé back. His voice had been steady, but there was something under it, hesitation, maybe fear. He hadn't left a return number, which meant he probably didn't want a record of the call, which meant whatever Bianca was planning, it was big. I pulled out my laptop and did something I hadn't done in years. I searched her full name, Bianca Taylor. Socials popped up instantly. Her Instagram was public, of course it was. Her life was curated like a fashion blog. Makeup selfies, brunch plates, yoga poses. A perfect little world built on the back of the sister she now wanted erased. But one post caught my attention. It was a short video, posted the day before. She sat at a table with 3 other women, sipping wine. The caption read, "Never let a washed-up soldier ruin your peace. Stay glowing, queens." The comments were worse. One read, "She's mad jealous. Must be sad being so bitter and alone." Another said, "I wouldn't want her at my wedding either." And then, Bianca's own reply, "She's lucky I don't go public with what I know." I clenched my jaw. They were pushing a narrative, painting me as some deranged, bitter sister who couldn't let go, who was jealous of a wedding I paid for, who was dangerous. If I let this spin, they could ruin everything. My career, my reputation, my clearance. I knew what I had to do. It was time to stop reacting. Time to go on offense. I called Leah, my childhood best friend, who now worked in public relations for a law firm in Cincinnati. She picked up on the first ring. "Amanda." "Hey, I need a favor." Her voice softened. "Say no more. I saw the article, the comments, the video your sister posted. I'm with you. What do you need?" I need to take control of the story before she does. We spent 2 hours crafting a statement, a real one, not a pity post, a declaration. I shared screenshots, financial records, proof of everything I had done over the years. I didn't use it to attack. I used it to clarify. Then Leah made a few calls. By morning, every major military forum and several veteran blogs had picked it up. Decorated veteran betrayed by family now faces smear campaign. The support poured in. Strangers began tagging Bianca's account, calling out her behavior. Some were soldiers, others were civilians. All were disgusted, but I didn't gloat. Not yet. I was too busy preparing my next move. I flew back to South Carolina, checked into a secure military housing unit, and spent 3 days gathering my personnel files, references, and commendations. My clearance had to be protected at all costs. Meanwhile, Bianca went silent online. No more brunch posts. No new quotes about cutting off toxic energy. But silence from her wasn't peace, it was planning. And I was right. On the 4th day, I received an official-looking envelope at the base. It was from her lawyer. Inside was a cease and desist, claiming defamation. She was accusing me of lying publicly, of endangering her future marriage, and threatening her safety. She included fake screenshots of supposed threats I'd made, messages I never sent. It was laughable, but also dangerous, because lies spread faster than truth, and I had everything to lose. That night, I stayed up going over my records, cross-checking every email, every message. I had nothing to hide, but that didn't mean she wouldn't keep twisting the truth. I needed a wild card. That's when I remembered something. A video. Back when I had sent her money for her textbooks, she had thanked me over a FaceTime call. I'd recorded it, thinking I'd make a scrapbook one day, a welcome home video montage. I found the file on an old drive, clicked it open. There she was, tears in her eyes, saying, "You're the only reason I can even go to college. You're the best big sister ever. No one else would sacrifice like you." Time-stamped. Dated. Clear. That was it. The rope to pull the whole curtain down. I forwarded the video to Leah with a simple message. Time to drop this. She handled the rest. A rebuttal article went live the next morning. Headline: Smear campaign against decorated officer unravels after emotional sister confession video emerges. Boom. The internet exploded. Bianca's lie didn't just crumble, it detonated. People turned on her in waves. Her Instagram was deactivated within hours. Sponsors dropped her wedding planning account. Her fiancé deleted all photos of them together. But what happened next? I didn't expect. Late that night, my hotel phone rang. Not my cell. Not email. The hotel landline. I hesitated before answering. Hello. It was him. Bianca's fiancé. His voice was low, trembling. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have said something sooner. But I think you need to hear this before she does it." I sat up straight. What is she planning now? There was a pause. Then he said, "She told me she was going to leak something about your time overseas. Said she had an old document. Something about an operation gone wrong. I don't know how she got it, but she swore it would ruin your name." My blood went cold. That was not just family drama anymore. That was career-ending material. "I think it's fake," he added quickly. "But she's unhinged right now. She said if she goes down, she's taking you with her." I stood up from the bed, mind racing. I had followed the rules. I had protected my name. But now, she wanted to rewrite my history, to stain my service. This wasn't a fight anymore. This was survival. And in war, you don't wait for the bomb to drop. You disarm it before it hits. I hung up the phone, grabbed my laptop, and opened my encrypted files. Inside were my debrief reports, mission logs, internal commendations, all classified but accessible with my clearance. Everything I needed to prove my innocence and, more importantly, prove who I really was. But before I could act, I got a text from an unknown number. It read, "Hope you're ready. One word from me, and your precious rank disappears. You chose war, remember? B. I stared at the screen. Then I grabbed my phone and made one last call to someone at the Pentagon, a man who owed me a favor. The moment he answered, I said, Bianca's got a document. I need it traced, and I need it fast. He paused, then said, send me everything. If she's holding classified material, this just became a federal case. And just like that, my baby sister crossed a line she could never return from. The moment I hung up with my Pentagon contact, I knew there was no going back. This wasn't about holiday drama anymore. This was about national security. If Bianca truly had a classified document, something tied to an overseas op, that meant she'd either hacked into federal systems or gotten it from someone who did. Either way, it was a federal offense. And depending on what she tried to leak, it could drag innocent soldiers into a storm they didn't deserve. I paced the room, fists clenched, mind buzzing. How had she even gotten her hands on that kind of document? I'd never stored hard copies anywhere near her. My files were protected by military-grade encryption. It didn't make sense, unless someone I trusted once had access. And I remembered during one of my leaves I brought my laptop home. I kept it locked, of course, but there was a night Bianca and Nathan were using my room while I stayed at a friend's. They claimed the Wi-Fi was better in there. Could she have copied something off my drive? Even if she didn't understand it, it was possible she found a file name, took a screenshot, or printed something out. And now she was threatening to use it against me. I opened my laptop, compiled all mission logs, file versions, access dates, and metadata. Then I packaged it in a secure file and sent it straight to my Pentagon contact with a note. Trace all matching data leaks. Confirm breach, if any. Flag unauthorized access to Operation Black Ridge. I didn't even hit send with fear. I hit it with finality. Bianca had always underestimated me, but this time she overplayed her hand. Within 2 hours, I received a reply from my contact. One line. We've confirmed a breach. Tracing IP now. If this ties back to her, she's done. I exhaled and leaned back in the chair. It was all in motion now. The legal systems, the military watchdogs, the federal investigators. But just when I thought things were finally turning in my favor, there was a knock at my hotel door. Not a gentle tap, a pounding knock. 3 heavy hits that echoed through the room. I froze, reached for the side table where I'd placed my phone. Knock, knock, knock. I approached the door slowly, glancing through the peephole. And what I saw made my stomach twist. My father, in a camouflage coat, standing stiff, face red with rage. And next to him, Nathan. I didn't open the door. I knew better. Instead, I spoke through it. What do you want? We need to talk, my father said, his voice firm and loud. We're past talking. He pounded again. Amanda, open the damn door. Now. I pulled out my phone and hit record, just in case. Nathan's voice came next. You think you're smart? Think the army makes you untouchable? You're ruining this family. I snapped. No, you ruined this family when you lit my truck on fire and started lying to the world about me. I did what I had to, he barked. You're not a victim here. Then my dad's voice, low, threatening. If you don't open this door, I swear, Amanda, I will go to the press myself. You want to drag us through the mud? Fine, but 2 can play that game. And what's your angle? I said, veteran father disowns daughter for being too honorable. He didn't respond, but then I heard the words that made my blood run cold. We're not leaving until you take everything down, he said. The articles, the video, all of it. I didn't answer, because they didn't understand. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was justice. They had gotten used to me being silent, obedient, helpful. But that girl was long gone. I walked to the desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the printed cease and desist letter Bianca had sent. I slid it under the door with one final message. You want to play legal? Let's play legal. But you'd better bring a lawyer. because the next knock on your door won't be mine. I stepped back and waited. Silence. Then footsteps retreating down the hallway. But I knew better than to think they were giving up. No, this was just a pause. The eye of the storm. Later that night, Leah called. Her voice was tense. I just got off a call with a podcast producer. Bianca reached out to them. She offered to go on air tomorrow. Said she'd tell her side of the story. That she'd reveal military secrets you don't want the public to know. My heart pounded. She's really doing it, I said under my breath. She's bluffing, Leah replied. But it doesn't matter. If she gets on air and says even one believable lie, you could lose your rank, Amanda. She's going nuclear. I didn't panic. I just got quiet. That's when Leah added, but I have a plan. If you trust me, I think it's time we go nuclear, too. I raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Simple, she said. We go live first. Full video interview. On your terms. With receipts. With the full story, backed by real names and facts. You speak before she can lie. We air it before the podcast drops. I didn't answer right away. I thought about everything I'd done to keep the peace over the years. Every dollar. Every sacrifice. Every holiday missed. Maybe it was time the world knew the truth, not just about my family, but about all the silent heroes like me who get left behind. I gave Leah a quiet yes. She set the wheels in motion instantly. By the next morning, her firm had set up a professional live stream. We recorded a 2-hour session, me sitting in uniform, clear-eyed and calm, detailing the truth. I didn't insult my family. I didn't scream. I didn't get emotional. I laid out the facts, the years of financial support, the betrayal, the truck, the fire, the threats, the breach. I ended the video with one message. Be kind to the ones who stay quiet. We're not weak. We're just watching. The video dropped at 9 a.m. sharp. Bianca's podcast was scheduled for noon, but by 10 a.m. her slot was canceled. Public pressure crushed it before she could speak a word. Too many people had already seen the truth. Too many veterans. Too many families. Too many women who'd heard those same cold words from their own blood. You're not welcome here anymore. My inbox was flooded again. Only this time it wasn't strangers. It was people from my own past. An old commander who offered to nominate me for a higher rank. A senator who'd read my story and wanted to meet. Even my base chaplain who simply wrote, You did the right thing, soldier. But just as I thought things were finally over, my Pentagon contact called again. Amanda, he said, his voice more serious than before. What is it? We traced the document Bianca had. It didn't come from your laptop. My stomach dropped. Then where? His answer was one I never expected. It came from someone inside the army. Someone you used to serve with. A name just came up. You might want to sit down. I did. Then he said it, and I went cold. Because the name, he said, was someone I trusted with my life. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. Staff Sergeant Dylan Brooks. Someone I had once called a brother. We served together during my second deployment in Kabul. We'd pulled each other out of firestorms, literally. Dylan had been the guy who cracked jokes in the mess tent, who gave me half of his rations when mine went missing. We shared war, trust, blood, and now he had handed my sister a classified document. Are you sure? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. We traced the leak back to his credentials, my Pentagon contact confirmed. He downloaded the file 2 months ago using an internal login. The same file your sister flashed around in that email thread. It's not just a breach, it's betrayal. I hung up, heart pounding, head spinning. Dylan, and I hadn't spoken since he left active duty last year. He moved back to Ohio, only 40 minutes from Dustin Glen, and now it all made sense. Bianca didn't hack anything. She was handed it by someone who once promised to have my six no matter what. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my bag, threw on my coat, and drove faster than I should have. all the way to the address I remembered from our last base directory. A small brick house just off Route 27, next to a dried-up gas station. When I pulled into the gravel driveway, he was there. Dylan, sitting on the front porch with a drink in hand, like he didn't just try to blow up my life. He looked up, recognized me, and for a second his face fell. I stepped out of the car, boots crunching on the frost. "Amanda," he said, trying to play it cool. I didn't speak. "Not yet." "Guess you found out," he muttered, setting his drink down on the armrest. Figured it was only a matter of time. "Why?" I asked, the word sharp. He shrugged. "Bianca offered money. Said she needed a proof document to expose you. She said you were out to ruin her, that you wanted to take down your whole family. And you just believed her." I snapped. He looked away. "No, but I needed the cash." I shook my head in disbelief. "You sold out a fellow soldier for a few $100s?" His silence told me the answer was yes. "I trusted you," I said. "You could have asked for help. You could have told me." He stood up slowly. I was desperate. My VA claim got denied. I thought it wouldn't go anywhere. "Well, it did," I said coldly. "And now you're in serious trouble." He looked down. "I know." I stepped forward. "You didn't just betray me. You handed over classified information to someone outside the military. That's jail time, Dylan." "I already turned myself in," he said quickly. "This morning, after your contact called me. I told them everything." I paused, stunned. He nodded. "I gave them the emails, the payment trail, the document. I admitted to it all. I'm done. But I wanted to tell you face to face, before they take me in." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. The anger hadn't left, but under it there was sorrow too. Another person I cared about lost to selfishness. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small envelope. "I wrote this before you got here," he said, handing it to me. "It's for you. You don't have to read it now." I took it, nodded once, and turned to leave. He didn't try to stop me. As I drove away, I saw the flashing lights approaching his street. Black SUVs, not patrol cars. The army was coming to get their man. Back at my hotel, I sat in silence for a long time. Then I opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. "Amanda, I don't deserve your forgiveness. What I did was shameful. No excuse. Just weakness. But you should know, your sister wasn't just planning to ruin you. She wanted to ruin the whole military image you built. She called you a walking medal display and said she was going to use the story to show that even heroes are fake. I wanted to believe she was bluffing. I was wrong. I hope you burn her whole plan down. Dylan." I folded the letter and placed it in my bag, because the last phase of this battle was coming. Bianca thought she was safe, thought the fire was out. She didn't know I had one last spark. The next morning, I met with Leah one final time. We sat in her office in downtown Cincinnati, going over everything. The cease and desist, the lawsuit threats, the betrayal from Dylan, the proof of breach, all of it. "Are you sure you want to do this?" she asked. I looked her in the eye. "Yes." She smiled. "Then let's shut her down for good." That afternoon, we filed a formal complaint with federal authorities against Bianca Taylor, citing complicity in handling classified material, intent to defame a federal officer, attempted use of national records for personal slander, and civil fraud relating to misuse of gifted assets. It wasn't just paperwork. It was a declaration. And because we submitted everything through military legal channels and federal cybercrime divisions, it couldn't be swept under the rug. 3 days later, I received confirmation. Bianca was being investigated. All wedding plans paused, accounts frozen, and her fiancé? Gone. He left the ring on her desk and moved out, citing irreconcilable behavior and dishonesty. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered her words. "She's lucky I don't go public with what I know." She wanted war. She got it. And I survived. On New Year's Eve, I stood on a quiet overlook just outside Charleston, watching the fireworks light up the sky. The world cheered for a new year. I breathed in deep, my coat zipped to the neck, my boots planted firm. Alone? Yes, but not broken, not bitter, just free. Behind me, my phone buzzed. A message from my mom. I saw everything. I'm sorry I didn't stop them sooner. I've left the house, staying with Aunt Cheryl. I hope it's not too late. I didn't respond. Not yet, because this war was finally over. And now, it was time to start again, but this time on my own terms. And this time, I wasn't going to thank anyone for pushing me away. I was going to thank myself for staying strong, for walking through the fire, and for never letting the wrong people define my worth ever again.